Welcome. Before we start our episode, let's make us some home fresh brewed coffee. I hope you have one with us and enjoy the episode. Let's start our day with a cup of coffee, and then we're going to talk about what we have in store for you today. Is that this is supposed to be fast, right?
Yes, fast, single cup brewing.
And I take a little bit of milks with my...
You take a little bit of coffee with your milk. I'm not ashamed to say it. I have a little bit of coffee with my creamer. Latte. Welcome back to the saga of the remodeling bathroom. We are almost at the same spot we were last week because if you recall we had a major setback. If this is your first time visiting with us, enjoy your show. If you've been here before, you know the drill. I am Professor DIY. The camera is held by Elpida, and Mrs. DIY is next to Elpida, and she's going to be doing the majority of the work today because this is just too tight. So last week you saw tile down here, and now you don't because we had to remove it. And a big part of that was this membrane thing. That was a great learning experience for us. And we're going to talk about this in a few minutes later, down the road on the video. So now we're going backwards again. I hate that, but that's what we're doing. We have to remove the membrane and reinstall a new membrane that's almost identical to this with one very major detail. So stick around to find out what detail is. This is called the hook, ladies and gentlemen. So you can watch more of the video, right? But in any case, we hope today we're going to actually have progress, right? Not just keeping backwards. Not Congress. So stick around. This is going to be a very good video. Today, removal is the opposite of installation. So we're taking out the drain, and we're going to have to take out the little ring on the drain so we can remove it because we're going to reuse that. We do not want to damage it. And you start by undoing the bolt. By undoing, we mean loosen the bolt.
Right.
Because previously they were tight. Now all 4 bolts have been loosened, and the idea is that you can slide it just to the right because they have keyholes that the bolts fit into.
Weird.
And
difficulties?
it could be a slight adjustment with the bolts, just sliding them, getting them loosened enough so that it's got space to move. There you go. And now the liner will be able to come up. Yep. And if you recall, this was stapled, so the staples are at this point coming off pretty easy. I don't know if we're going to have any points where we'll have difficulty, but
you know, at least we're learning from this experience, number 1. And number 2, we're not afraid to say we made a mistake. It's going to happen anytime you do something for the first time.
So would you call this an us mistake though, or a manufacturer mistake?
It was a misunderstanding. Number 1, that it really is not best practice to have one that's folded. Now, they can sell it to anybody, either folded or not folded. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna not know the difference. So that's kind of on us for not being a little more prepared, I guess, or understanding. But also, it's really stupid to sell something like this that's so thick with so many big, deep wrinkles that you can't use it.
And let me tell you that on the big store box, the big box stores, none of them is folded. All brands, there are many different brands.
all brands are sold in tubes, right?
Rolls.
Rolls, what's the difference?
Tube implies that it's inside the tube, but the roll.
Well, I was thinking that they should have sent that in a tube, you know?
Yeah, they should have, or in a roll, but they didn't. They sent it folded up in a nice little packet. So this one that we're removing was purchased online from another retailer, not the big box store.
Well, it was Amazon, I mean, I don't have a problem.
It's the store of everything, but who knows who the seller was.
It came directly from that company, so.
Yeah. But learning experience.
Yeah, learning experience. And luckily, we are able to fix it.
Yay.
Now, this is a step that you don't have to do because hopefully you've watched our video and you don't make the mistake. But we have the tiles we use, which unfortunately are full of mastic, is that what it's called? And we have to unmasticate them. Demasticate. So we're going to let them soak in water for a little bit and then we're going to use a pressure water or just hold. We'll see what we can do.
We'll see. Hopefully this works. Otherwise, we'll, have to do something different.
So we are showing that to you, kind of egg in our face.
And so again, this only happened because of the issue with the liner for the shower pan that didn't work because of all the wrinkles in it. Because you tried to put the tile down and then you realized it wasn't going to work, so you pulled the tile back up.
Right. Because no matter what we did, we couldn't get the wrinkles out of the liner. And without the wrinkles out, we cannot slope the liner and we cannot make it flat.
And the tiles wouldn't lay correctly.
Right. Now that might have been less of an issue if we had square tiles, not this mesh type. Mm-hmm. Like solid, I guess is what I want to say, right?
More like a solid tile, piece
Not
of
broken,
tile,
but
as
yes.
opposed to the rocks, the stone look that we're using here.
And I did not want to give up on this design because this is very important to me. It's something that I always loved and wanted to try to incorporate into this project. So until I absolutely cannot use them, I'm going to use them.
In other words, Mrs. DIY is stubborn.
I am stubborn. I'm very stubborn. We're going to need more water.
Oh, did that one disintegrate when you pulled it up?
No, this is one I cut
Oh,
to go
for the
around the
center.
drain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
But the good news is this mastic
Seems like it's
looks like it's going to work with me.
Okay. So we're running in some fresh water here to try and rinse out the mastic that's already come off. And also get the tray a little more full than it was.
Easter egg hunt.
Stones back. Just gonna try to tilt it up a little bit too.
We can even use the pressure washer in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't lose the stone or something.
The problem is we're going to splatter it all over the house and the tree and everything if we do that.
In our last video, we showed you how to cut this to your size, and that is the same. There was nothing we did wrong there, but we need to redo it with this new membrane. So watch the old video if you want to see how we do that, but that's a pretty straightforward process. The role of the membrane is to prevent water intrusion, and to that end,
this is a very important step. Now you're seeing is here putting a membrane just around our little step, and the first part that we're doing here, we're going to use staples even inside the watertight area, because we're going to actually cover it, so it is not important. This is the accepted method. You are going to use staples to attach it, and there is no problem with that. However, you're going to see in the next step, we're going to go over this membrane with one more piece of membrane, and that we will only staple outside where we should not have water, where Mrs. DIY is stapling now. Only inside of the step we should have water. So the second layer will only have staples outside and not inside, therefore creating a very watertight, waterproof area. Again, this is a protection. This will never hold water to any level, but it is intended to protect any substrate and any material from getting damaged from any additional water intrusion. Take your time, do this to the best of your ability, and it is also recommended that you try to test it for water tightness. We're not showing how to do that, but it is also a straightforward process. Take your time to make sure that this piece of membrane is well attached. Again, the outside part of the step here, you can put as many staples as you want. This should not come in contact with water in normal operation, and any water should be able to set through the tile without any problems. The inside of it, where you see the cardboard, is where you're going to have a lot of water, and that is the area that you want to take extra care that it is totally free of any holes. Mrs. DIY here is tapping the staples so they are well into the wood, and that will prevent anything from causing any unevenness on the tile, because we're going to put tile out there as well. So go through all your staples and tap them if you see them to protrude, and go one more time. Make sure that this is a very straight orientation there. Again, a second pair of wires is also useful, and Mrs. DIY here makes sure that any slack is taken off by stapling. Normally, again, inside you're not going to put staples, but remember, this will be covered by other membrane. I do believe that any PVC glue will work here, but we decided to use the specific PVC glue for this membrane, and also the same manufacturer, which is Oatly. We're not sponsored by Oatly, we just bought a lot of their material, and actually we're very impressed with the quality. For example, the Oatly drain that I saw in the store was of much better quality than the drain we purchased, and I wish I would have bought it. So while we could be using anything, we are using the Oatly glue here to attach everything to the wall. You're seeing stapling again here, and that is because on the top we're going to have water, and we can put some judicious staples on the bottom as well, but mostly on the bottom we're going to have the glue doing the heavy lifting.
So now both of these corners where the threshold is have this extra little piece cut in here. This was just about 7-inch wide by the 2-inch wide, which is the threshold, cut in on both sides. And then we're going to be cutting in and folding in the other piece of the main liner. So now the main piece of the liner is going to get lined up with the top there. We're going to cut it straight across. And by straight across, I mean we're going to line it up with this. Being very careful not to cut the liner behind it. Right?
Actually, I've made a line and I'm going to cut it with scissors.
Oh, yay. Okay. So we made the line and we're taking scissors to cut it.
This is not very clearly visible, but Mrs. DIY simply scored the membrane with her knife, and now she can actually see that scoring, but it is not really visible on the video. So it looks like a random cut here. It really is not. She's cutting on the scoring that she just made, and the reason we do it that way, so we're not going to by mistake cut the second membrane, which is going to compromise the ability of the membrane to hold water. So this is just an advice, a tip for you if you decide to do it the same way.
And somehow that piece will go forward and align here. filming light to help with our workload. There we go. So now that piece is going to go forward and will be flush against the wall. And then this piece will end up folding over and all. So we'll get started with that.
Here and here and here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just put it on the wall first because and you'll put some on the threshold itself when.
This process will rarely be the same for two different installations. So you need to do your best to make sure that you don't have any penetrations. In other words, any points that water can get under the membrane. Being a shower, it will never hold a lot of water, and realistically here in this edge, we should not have a big problem. However, we're taking every care not to leave any openings that might allow water penetration. This is so this will last for a long time, and we will not have to worry if we have to sell the house or if we keep the house forever for any penetration that might cause structural problems. Also, get in the habit of checking things like that when you do your yearly house inspections. It's a wise move.
So now we've trimmed that piece. And we'll do the same on the other side here. And then we'll come back and show you the threshold itself.
And here is what I was mentioning earlier. As you can see, the membrane now is all the way to the step, and we're putting glue in the inside part, and that glue will keep the membrane on the first piece of membrane we put there and keep it watertight and safe for any water intrusion. We're also putting the glue on top, and that will make a very nice, very rigid and fairly waterproof, watertight installation. So be liberal with your glue. This is your warranty for having protection against water and damage.
And as soon as she gets the adhesive all over the other parts, we're going to zoom in right here to this corner and show you. This is a very similar effect to what we did in the back corners, just so you can see. And it's basically folding in the corner and then making the seam very tight. You gotta tuck that in. You gotta tuck it in. There we go. Same thing on this side, tucked it in. Sorry, I don't think I got that on camera very well. And then all of this is gonna be really tight. That adhesive is gonna hold it really tight as well. So now the shower pan liner is in place, and again you can see this back corner has been nicely folded in. Same here on the front. Now I believe we're ready to proceed with tiling.
As I mentioned earlier, this is a step that most of you will not have to do. We are cleaning the tiles that we put on the floor last week, and then we removed them because we were not happy with the placement. And Mrs. DIY wanted to save them because we cannot find the exact tiles, and these are the ones that she likes. So we're doing a little extra work because we want to reuse them. So we're using a handheld pressure washer, and that allows us to clean them very well and will allow us to use them again without having to go and find out similar tiles to complete our project. But again, not necessary for every application. This definitely took longer than we anticipated, but we think in the end it's going to worth the result, because that is what Mrs. DIY had envisioned and that's what she wanted, and that's something that a professional installation will not do. They will charge you for new tile, and again, being a DIYer, it is not that your time doesn't worth much, but you have the luxury of managing your time any way you want. For us, since we cannot find this tile, spending the time to clean them so we can use them again, well worth the effort, but to a professional, most certainly that will not work, and the cost will be prohibitive. So as you can see, using a liner that was on a tube was a much better experience than using one that was folded in a box. Right, Mrs. DIY?
Much, much easier and easier to work with. Easier to cut, easier to lay,
Easier to look at.
and much easier to look at.
So this was faster. I mean, overall we wasted a lot of time because we did it wrong last time. But comparing the two experiences, this was much faster, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to spend any time trying to get those wrinkles out that ultimately you cannot. Even after a week, they were very strong. Nothing
Yep.
we tried was able to take them off. So now, the second mistake we made was that we used mastic instead of mortar. So we're going to use mortar this time. That supposedly is going to make this process a little easier for us.
Yep. So I need to have a slope from the wall, a little bit more of a slope. We have to bring the tiles to the level with the drain, the top of the drain. And so we made a level line all the way around that gave us a 1/4 inch slope between the wall and the drain. And I put masking tape all the way around so that I can see that when I'm putting my mortar in. So now the fun begins.
Apply mortar very liberally. Keep in mind that towards the end of your shower, you're going to have a much thicker part of mortar than towards the middle. And you need to maintain that throughout. So not only front, back, and side to side and corner to corner. For correct drainage, anywhere you are on your pan, you need to have an incline towards your drain. Otherwise water will pool. And if a little water pools, it will not be a great deal until you have a penetration in your membrane or a penetration in your mortar, which we hope we will not have. Plus, when we're finished tiling, we're going to waterproof the tiling itself as an extra protection and a peace of mind. But do not try to save material here. You need to put a lot of material so you're going to make the job and the connection correctly, and then make sure as you take care of the mortar that you're flaring it towards the middle where your drain is. Otherwise you will have draining problems. This is definitely much easier if you do not use those pebble type of tiles. If you use square tiles or parallelogram tiles, big tiles in other words, not little tiles, it will go faster, it will be easier to untouch, and you're going to have an easier time. However, this is the look we're going for, and to us, the extra time and effort will worth it in the end, because Mrs. DIY always wanted to have a shower with pebble, and as you can see, it looks really nice, even before we put the mortar in between, the grout in between. So after we grout it, we feel that will look fantastic. But as you can see, it starts taking shape finally, and it is exactly as we desired it to be. But most certainly, if you want to do that and not spend the time, square tiles or parallelogram tiles will make this process much easier and infinitely much faster than we show you here. Finally, it is coming together. I cannot wait for the finished product. We're very happy with how the mortar is around the drain there, and we are certain that it's going to drain very well. We're taking our time here. You do not need very big indentations, especially with these tiles that have a little big of a mass material in the end, and they have a very good adhesion. But in any case, be careful, take your time, and you're going to have an excellent result without having to spend a lot of time and material.
So now, because of what happened earlier, most of the rocks are now just free. So it's a puzzle game to fit them in.
This, of course, also presents a problem because those little pieces might come loose easier since they're not connected to a substrate, but also they will be much easier to glue down again, so not a big deal overall. We can see the potential now, but we can also see how much more work it takes. Again, if they were in full sheets, it will be a little faster, but overall this type of tile is the most time-consuming tile to install, especially on a floor. But take your time. Again, there's going to be mortar in between, so there are not going to be gaps, and we're going to show you that in a future episode. But you can see now the vision. We are literally getting excited to finish this project. As we are now going upwards again, we have finished having problems, hopefully, and we finished having distractions.
So friends, we have reached the end of the episode for today, And we are on the bottom, on the floor, we're about, what you will say, 80%, 85% done.
2/3.
So we're going to finish tomorrow. That will not be a good full episode. But after that point, we have to put tiles on the walls and tiles on the floor. So we can see then the end of the line, right? We can actually see the future coming up and finishing. A couple of things I wanted to say. We did not realize, I guess because we haven't done it, that buying the membrane folded is a bad idea, a really bad idea. And when we use the pre-made slope thing, we did not realize we need that much mortar instead of just the mastic. So 2 lessons we learned: buy your membrane in a tube, around a tube,
In a roll.
in a roll, and buy mortar and mastic. Mastic is better for the wall, or if you have a mortar bed or a concrete bed. Other than that, what are other learnings, Mrs. DIY?
Be prepared for mistakes and be okay with it, because most mistakes you can fix.
Yeah, sorry, it is a late night because outside it's dark. It's dark o'clock. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, we would appreciate a thumbs up. If you didn't, give us 2 thumbs down. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know. Was this helpful to you? Do you want longer style projects like this one, or you want us to stick to our one-day builds? From Professor DIY, this is DIY, Elpida and Atlas. Let's build something together.